Hello everyone. Here I am back with new topics from water supply engineering. So today's content will be water requirement, the necessity of water supply, methods of population forecasting. The first method we will be discussing arithmetic increase method, second geometrical increase method, and the last incremental increase method. So we'll start with the first topic of today's is necessity of water supply. As we know, the water is the important element on the earth and which comes after the air. As we have or we know that there are five elements on the earth. We usually say it as Panchabhuta. The first is air, water, fire, earth and the sky. So first, why we give the importance as air? Because without air there is nothing on the earth. Similarly, you would have seen some historical or some national geography. They have shown the Jupiters or the other planets. There you will be finding air, but there is no lives because the air which it is being contaminated. Even the first astronaut Neil Armstrong, he was being sent to the moon. Even it is the satellite of the earth. On that surface we find air, but it is not much good to remove his helmet. So coming to the next element, it is the water. If we don't have food, still can lead the life, but without water there is no life. So water is the next element to air. It is very much important. If you are not going to have your lunch or the dinner or breakfast with water, you can survive for longer days, but without air or without water there is no life. So coming to the necessity for drinking, washing, cleaning and much more necessities are listed. As in this important issue, the supply of water to the necessary places are is very essential. Similarly, to reserve the water for the future generation with minimum utilization must. So in the image you can see why it's important to conserve water. You would have seen some deserts where there are some peoples, but they won't find any type of waters. It might be the oasis or the groundwaters. The first thing, to prepare for future droughts. Similarly, to guard against rising costs and potential conflicts. As you have been paying the water bills, you would have understood it. Similarly, to preserve the environment, you can understand this because nowadays whatever the climatic conditions or the monsoon, whatever it is coming or it has been passed, it is not the normal monsoons or the climatic conditions. Similarly, to make water available for recreational purposes. Recreational in the sense wherever we have been cut the trees or wherever we have been removed some part of that area and we have been built something on those areas. So we need to balance the things the hydrological cycles or the atmosphere, the the coldness around us. We need to maintain those climates or the environment. So to make water available for recreational purposes. Similarly, to strengthen communities. Strengthen communities, how it will be just like without means the communities wherever we are living in and around us, you can see there are the houses they are been bringing the water from far away wells. Even you have been seeing some films there, the city, the wells, it will be away from the city. In the sense, it is not because of their technology is behind. They have been dug well, even after 800,000 feet. If they didn't find any water, then they need to get it from some other places. So you can understand why the water is very important and we need to conserve it. Next is methods of population forecasting. This is much more important rather than the conservation of the water. Why it is important? First we will understand what is population. It is the number of peoples, those who are being present in a stipulated area, or they have been habitated in stipulated area, or the known boundary. Just like we are in a Belgaum city, it is been means we have some boundaries. Similarly, there is Dharwad, Hubballi, Chikkodi, Davangere. Similar, the boundaries we have been set it. In those areas, the people, those who are habitated or those who are living there, we are going to count them as the population. Similarly, the forecast in the sense, it is the assuming or presuming the calculation of some things in the future upcoming years or the decades, with considering the present values. And lastly, we are going to combine each word population forecast. In the sense, we are going to predict the future count or the number of the peoples, those who are going to be living in that stipulated area. So this we are doing this to understand how many peoples are going to be lived in those areas and how much water needed to be served, or we are going to conserve the water for that area. So to understand this, the population forecasting, there are many methods. Among them, I am going to discuss arithmetic increase method, geometrical increase method, and the incremental increase method. Among these three, we will be adopting the incremental increase method for the smaller areas, just like the villages, the talukas, not more than the talukas. Even nowadays we are not going to consider in talukas, it will be the hoblis. Okay, in talukas and the bigger cities, the metropolitan cities, we will be going to take the higher versions of graphical methods. So first we will be discussing the arithmetic increase method. In this, the forecasting or the predicting future population is simple. Collecting the past record from census. This census will be recorded in every 10 years, just like a person who will be coming to our house, he will be collecting the data, how many members are there in your house. If you have grandparents, you need to mention their ages, you need to mention their names. Similarly, your parents, and lastly you, if you have any siblings, brothers, sisters, you need to mention the numbers. If you have the grandparents, if you have grandpa and the mother, there will be two. Similarly, father, mother, and you, if you have any siblings, brother and the sisters, you are going to mention the numbers. These data will be stored in the Ministry of Human Resource Department. They will be recording this in some data, and they will be giving to those persons, those who are going to come to your house, and they will be noting those down. And this will be done for every 10 years. And they will be going to means the water conservation department, they will be collecting this data, and they will be taking around some 3 to 5 decades data, and they will be taking the average of them for the forecasting of the future population. How they will be calculating? The formula, it has been given that Pn is equals to P naught plus n into A bar, where Pn, it is the forecasting population for the next nth decade. Similarly, the P naught, it is the forecasted population for the known decades, in the sense the previous when it was the last forecasted population is 2011. So next they will be getting in 2021. Similarly, for respective 10 years, in the sense every decades they will be collecting the population data for respective population, means datas. The for next decade, previous decade population, they will be considered as the P naught. Similarly, the n is the number of decades, for how many decades they are going to check it, and A bar is the average increment in population for interval decades. And after every increment, you need to check the differences of those. Next, we will be discussing the geometrical increase method. In this, the forecasting and predicting the future population is simple, but the values whatever we will be getting, it will be in the higher numbers comparing to the arithmetic increase method numbers. Next, we will be taking the increments, whatever the average last we have found, every decades population increment, there we have been taken it directly. Here we will be converting those increments in percentages. The increase in population, whatever we are going to get, we will be comparing with the last known decades population, and we will be getting in percentage, and this percentage we will be adopting, or we will be using it to forecast the upcoming decades population. To calculate the future population, the formula is Pn is equals to P naught into 1 plus R bar upon 100, where Pn, as I said, it is the forecasting population for the nth decade. Next, P naught, it is the known last decades forecasted population. N is, and I have misplaced here, 1 plus R bar upon 100 raised to n, it will be n. Please remember this. Next, the n is number of decades, R bar is the percentage increment in population for known intervals of the decades. And lastly, we will be discussing the incremental increase method. It is the forecasting of the population, and whatever the value or the numbers of the population we will be getting, it will be in the range of arithmetic increase method and the geometrical increase method. In between those, we will be getting the values. Similarly, here we will be adopting the same similar uh, procedure of arithmetical increase method. We will be taking the average of we will be getting the incremental increment in population for every 10 decades, and again we will be getting the incremental increase of population for the difference in decades. Similarly, to calculate the future population, we have the formula, which is Pn is equals to P naught plus, it is n into the bracket of average of arithmetical increase. This is the increase in population for every decades, and again we will be finding the average incremental increase. In a sense, every increased population for decades, we will be calculating the incremental increase in of population for every 10 decades, and we will be taking the average of those. So this ends the methods and the necessity of the water supply, methods of forecasting the population. Even there are more methods, and I will be discussing in further videos if you require. Thank you.